The search for new vaccines for old diseases is endless. Some plans are imaginative. Scientists have apparently developed a banana vaccine by creating genetically engineered banana plants. There are plans to develop bananas which protect against hepatitis B, measles, yellow fever, and poliomyelitis. Other scientists have developed a genetically engineered potato designed to be used as a vaccine against cholera. The active part of the potato remains active during the process of cooking, and so a portion of genetically engineered chips could soon be a vaccine against cholera. There's a planned genetically engineered vaccine which will provide protection against 40 different diseases. The vaccine, which will contain the raw DNA of all those different diseases, will be given to newborn babies to provide them with protection for life. I wrote those words for my book, Anyone Who Tells You Vaccines Are Safe and Effective Is Lying, and I wrote them in 2011. Predictably, I was attacked with some vehemence by many people inside and outside the medical and nursing professions. There was much shaking of heads and wagging of fingers, and critics fell over themselves to condemn me for revelations which were regarded then as more suitable for a science fiction novel than for a serious book about vaccination. But lo and behold, the COVID-19 fraud has provided an excellent opportunity for scientists everywhere to start shouting publicly about their wonderful new plant-based vaccines. And food-based vaccines are now on their way. The absolutely excellent Christian Westbrook, whose website Ice Age Farmer is a better source of information about all aspects of food than anything on the mainstream media, and in my opinion, approximately 1 million times more honest and useful than anything ever broadcast on the BBC, recently produced a video detailing the latest news about vaccines in genetically modified tomatoes and other foods. The plan, of course, is to modify the DNA of the foodstuff so that as it grows, it produces the appropriate vaccine. And since COVID-19 is the fashionable disease of the moment and the fraudulent reason for bringing Agenda 21 into your home and your life, then the vaccines are, of course, designed for COVID-19. You won't need a jab, you'll just have to eat a specially grown and genetically modified tomato or whatever fruit or vegetable they choose for their vaccine. Tobacco plants are apparently excellent for growing vaccines. Incidentally, I'm not sure what would happen if you were, over a period of time, to eat 12, 24 or 36 vaccine-contaminated tomatoes. And I don't think there's any point in trying to find out, because I doubt if anyone else knows either. Naturally, the pharmaceutical industry is constantly searching for more and more new vaccines, and whenever they spot the beginnings of a market, a demand, they'll do their best to serve up something appropriate. I've lost count of the number of times I've heard of researchers working on a vaccine to prevent cancer. Meanwhile, the drug companies continue with the old faithfuls, the profitable cash cows which keep the billions pouring in. Every year, new flu jabs appear on the market. I don't know about you, but I can no longer keep up with what's going on. And I've long since given up trying to work out which vaccines are very dangerous and which are just a bit dangerous, and to whom. The only certainty is that manufacturing and giving vaccines is big business. The people who sell vaccines make a lot of money, and the doctors who give them, or who authorize nurses to give them on their behalf, make a lot of money too. That, by the way, is one of the reasons why doctors rarely criticize vaccination programs. The other reason for keeping quiet is that doctors who do dare to speak out about vaccine hazards are likely to lose their license to practice. Vaccination is a big and very profitable industry. COVID-19 is vaccine bonanza time for drug companies and doctors. At the latest count, there were over 100 companies and other groups hurrying to be the first with a COVID-19 vaccine and the chance to sell 7 billion doses once, twice, or even 4 times a year. This is bonanza time for the vaccine companies and for the doctors who will give the vaccines. I'm not sure, by the way, just how keen doctors will be on the vaccines in foods. As I've pointed out, doctors make a fortune out of giving vaccines. Will they now be able to make money out of prescribing tomatoes? Quite possibly. I can hear it now. Take one of these tomatoes once a day every 3 months. What happens, incidentally, to those people who are allergic to tomatoes or who just hate the damn things? It'll be easy to manufacture and sustain reasons for the vaccine to be needed. The testing program currently being used for COVID-19 is woefully inaccurate. It is at best less than 50% accurate, and it produces a good many false positives. And even if there weren't any real cases of COVID-19 around, the testing will, by producing false positives, sustain the myth that the disease is still around and still dangerous. Indeed, if the authorities want to close down a town or even a single establishment, a pub where the landlord has been seen to be lax about enforcing the rules, for example, all they have to do is to increase the amount of testing. Even if no one has had the disease, there will inevitably be a lot of positives. So then the Gestapo can close down the town or the pub or whatever. Let me now tell you something about vaccine testing and the side effects. This is a scary truth that no one ever mentions. You won't hear this from any government-hired doctor or scientist, but I promise you it's true. Serious side effects may occur with drugs or vaccines after a considerable number of patients have taken the drug or had the vaccine. So, for example, it may be that a vaccine only kills or seriously damages 1 in every 10,000 people. It may kill or seriously damage 1 in every 100,000, or it may kill or seriously damage 1 in every 1,000. The numbers vary. But the initial testing program will probably never show up those dangerous side effects. And here's why. Developing and testing a new vaccine usually takes 10 to 15 years, and the whole development program has been well established over decades. In America, the regulations for vaccine development were first created in 1902 and were the forerunner of the National Institutes of Health. In the European Union, there's the European Medicines Agency, and of course, the World Health Organization has recommendations. All these rules are considered necessary because there have, over the years, been many vaccine calamities. Doctors and governments don't like to mention how often things go disastrously wrong, but I detailed some of the bad examples in the book I mentioned. It's enough to say that governments around the world have secretly paid out billions of dollars to patients and relatives injured or killed by vaccines. Bill Gates has, of course, insisted that vaccine developers who produce a COVID-19 vaccine will be immune from legal action. They could produce a vaccine that killed 50% of the world's population and not have to pay 1 penny in damages. The first stage in developing a vaccine usually lasts a few years, and it involves experimenting with various possible antigens that might trigger a response and provide protection against a disease. Once a possible vaccine looks promising, it's usually tested on animals. I have for over half a century argued that animal experiments are pointless and misleading. Drug companies always ignore the results if a product is shown to cause cancer or other serious problems in animals, for example. They dismiss such inconvenient results by arguing that animals are different to people, so the results don't matter. The experiments on animals usually last a couple of years, and many vaccines never get past this stage. Either the vaccine doesn't work or it turns out to be remarkably lethal. With COVID-19, however, governments have allowed drug companies to skip the animal testing and go straight into testing on humans. Once animal tests have been done, or in this case not done, the next stage is to test out the vaccine on a fairly small group of people, usually no more than 100. Attempts will usually be made to give the infection to the people taking part in the test. If the vaccine does its job, then some at least of the brave souls involved in the trial won't get the disease. If those tests are successful, then phase 3 can start. In phase 3, the idea is to give the vaccine to more people, certainly several thousand, and the vaccine will be tested against a placebo. And if all goes well, then the manufacturer will apply for a license and no doubt organise some sort of celebration. Once a vaccine's been produced, it will be regarded as suitable for mass use. Technically, vaccine manufacturers may continue to test their vaccine for effectiveness and safety if they'd like to do so. The idea is to see if lots of people who had the vaccine suddenly go blind or die a year after being vaccinated. In an ideal world, it would be nice to know if the vaccine interferes with other vaccines or prescription drugs, or even with genetically modified foods. Who knows? When you start putting stuff into people's bodies, the sky's the limit as far as side effects are concerned. With a drug taken by mouth, you can at least stop the drug if serious problems develop. That's a bit more tricky with stuff that's been injected into the body with the idea of creating some sort of reaction. But these long-term tests are voluntary, so you can imagine how often they're done. You can, however, now see why testing a vaccine, the preliminary tests, usually take a decade or more. But with the vaccine for COVID-19, the plan is to get the license in months. And in my view, the vaccine won't be safe in that time period. Despite the claims made by pro-vaxxers, which is just about every politician, doctor, journalist and buffoon in the world, vaccines are not entirely safe. Doctors don't have to report problems with vaccines, and patients hardly ever do so because they don't usually realise the connection. Even so, around 30,000 adverse vaccine events are reported every year, and of those, 3,000 to 4,500 are serious, which is to say they cause permanent disability or death, and that's just in the United States of America. There are three huge problems with the COVID-19 vaccine. First, there's the problem that it's possible that not enough volunteers will have been given the vaccine to test it for safety. And remember, once the testing is over, the vaccine will be approved for widespread distribution. Statistically, you have to test on a lot of patients if you're going to spot serious side effects. If a serious side effect occurs in, say, 1 in every 10,000 patients, and I think that was a figure which Bill Gates mentioned, then you will really need to do tests on many more patients. One important textbook on vaccines suggests that in order to detect a significant difference for a low-frequency event, a trial would have to include 60,000 subjects, half of them in a control group receiving no vaccination. So it's fair to say that the phase 3 testing for each of the 100 or so new vaccines will need to involve 60,000 people. That means finding 6 million people prepared to be guinea pigs for a new vaccine, because you can't test more than one vaccine on the same person. I can't see them finding 6 million guinea pigs, so I suspect that the tests will involve fewer patients. It's no wonder that Gates has demanded that the drug companies making the vaccines have no legal liability. By the way, individual doctors and nurses can, of course, still be sued, and damages, if things go wrong, will, I suspect, run into billions. Medical insurance companies will go bust, and so will thousands of doctors and nurses. They might like to think about that. A fatality risk of 1 in 1,000 for a drug that may save your life is very acceptable. 1 in 1,000 is rotten odds, however, for a drug or vaccine that you don't really need. The second problem is that governments will be tempted to roll out the vaccine very quickly. They've been promoting the vaccine very hard and promising that once there's a vaccine, we can all get back to normal. That was obviously a lie, but that's what they said, so they'll want to get on with things, and they'll doubtless give the vaccine to too many people too quickly. And remember, you need to observe patients for quite a while, because some problems will only occur later, much later. It may be months or years before serious side effects are seen, especially if the vaccine is prepared using new techniques. So, if a new vaccine is rolled out and given to nearly 7 billion patients in a matter of weeks, the serious problems will only be seen after all the individuals have been vaccinated. And if, say, 1 in 1,000 people die or are brain damaged, then there'll be 7 million people dead or brain damaged as a result of the vaccination program. Arch pro-vaxxer Bill Gates suggested that there might perhaps be problems with 1 in 10,000 people, and he doesn't know whether it could be 1 in 10,000, 1 in 1,000 or 1 in 100. Then there'll be 700,000 dead or seriously damaged people. That's 700,000 previously healthy individuals. And under these exceptional circumstances, I believe that's pretty much the best case scenario. And it is, of course, far more than the total number of people alleged to have been killed by COVID-19 around the world. The third problem, of course, is that serious problems might occur a long time after the vaccine's been given. Who is going to monitor all those patients? My guess would be no one. Those are all usual, fairly standard problems with a vaccine which has taken 10 to 15 years to produce. The COVID-19 vaccine will probably be in use within months of being made. Indeed, companies are already making millions of doses of vaccines which haven't finished their tests. The UK government has already bought well over 100 million doses of vaccine and a huge supply of needles and syringes. So far, it's all sounding a little iffy. And to all these risks must be added the fact that Gates doesn't seem to have an entirely trouble-free history as far as his various adventures are concerned. His genetic modification of mosquitoes didn't go too well. And there's all that talk about his polio vaccine, which I discussed in previous videos. There's also the fact that the results of a test of one vaccine for COVID-19 showed that many volunteers reported mild or moderate side effects. Over half experienced pain, 16% had fever, 28% had headache, and 34% suffered from fatigue. Patients who had a higher dose of the vaccine suffered even worse, with 57% having pain, 32% having fever, 29% having headaches, and 42% having fatigue. As one analysis reported, the level of mild and moderate symptoms with this COVID-19 vaccine is markedly higher than that associated with the COVID-19 infection itself. How many people will be keen to have a vaccine when there's a good chance that they'll suffer more than if they develop the disease? And remember, a lot of people who develop COVID-19 have no symptoms at all, or very mild symptoms. And there was another problem with the vaccine that I've just mentioned. Older patients didn't develop very good levels of immune response. And of course, the vast majority of those who died of COVID-19 were over 80 years old. Still, it's perhaps reassuring for citizens to know that Neil Ferguson is acting director of the Vaccine Impact Modelling Consortium at Imperial College. The consortium, by the way, is funded by, among others, Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. But with COVID-19 vaccine, there's a fourth problem, the biggest problem of all. Some manufacturers are using a new method of making vaccines called third-generation vaccines. These contain DNA or RNA technology and are injected into the body and taken up by the cells to change the immune system. The technology is designed to turn your body's cells into viral protein-making machines. Instead of injecting a piece of virus into the human recipient, synthesized genes are used. It's gene therapy. Those having the vaccine will be genetically modified, like a soya bean or one of Bill Gates's mosquitoes. The artificial gene will be incorporated into the DNA, and you'll become a different person. Forever. Serious, possible, deadly side effects might not appear for years or even generations. No one knows how dangerous this vaccine could be because it's new. Drug companies admit that they don't know what will happen or what could go wrong. It's a massive experiment. Here's what the World Health Organization has to say. Quote, "Many aspects of the immune response generated by DNA vaccines are not understood. However, This has not impeded significant progress towards the use of this type of vaccine in humans, and clinical trials have begun." Close quotes. That's the World Health Organization. Governments and YouTube tell us we must listen to the World Health Organization, so I'll repeat that. Many aspects of the immune response generated by DNA vaccines are not understood. However, this has not impeded significant progress towards the use of this type of vaccine in humans, and clinical trials have begun. Close quotes. Naturally, the drug companies making these vaccines know that they could be very harmful. Moderna, one of the drug companies involved, has admitted that there could be significant adverse effects. The fact is that if you have a DNA or RNA vaccine, you'll become a genetically modified human being. You'll be an experiment. The vaccine might prove to be absolutely lethal. Can they guarantee that everyone who has it won't drop dead in 18 months? I don't believe they can. And what if they decide to give you a food with a vaccine inside it? The tomato or the potato or the banana or whatever that I mentioned at the start of this video and first wrote about in 2011. How safe will that be? I have no idea. And I would welcome an honest and disinterested appraisal by experts not connected with the vaccine industry or with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, though to be honest I'm not entirely sure where they would find such experts. And of course, thanks to Bill Gates, the companies making this new COVID-19 vaccine will have full legal immunity. If things go wrong, they will not be liable. Now, if the disease for which the vaccine was being prepared was killing millions, then the risk might be worth taking. But it's been proved time and time again that COVID-19 kills no more people than the flu. The lockdowns and other procedures have killed more people than the disease. So how deadly will the COVID-19 vaccine turn out to be? As far as the medical establishment is concerned, you should remember that I'm persona non grata. They and the mainstream media think I'm dangerous, though despite many lies about me, they can't point to anything I've got wrong, so they largely settle for abuse, lies and distortions. I believe that everything I've told you is true. I don't believe that the new COVID-19 vaccine will have been properly tested. I don't believe that a vaccine is necessary. I worry about what it might contain. I worry about the fact that those recommending vaccination will not debate with me. I worry about the past record of the major drug companies. Take a look at my other videos for the facts. And I worry endlessly that they want to give the COVID-19 vaccine to every living soul on Earth. And all that's before I start to worry about what might have been added to the vaccine, how much it might change my genetic makeup, and whether or not a vaccine might be designed to in some way change my conscious state or my personality. Gates is pushing Moderna's RNA vaccine, though perhaps because it seems possible genetic changes could be passed to future generations. And yet back in January 2020, the Geneva Statement, a group of the world's leading ethicists and scientists, called for an end to experiments involving editing of the human genome. Dr. Suhab Siddiqui, Moderna's former director of chemistry, allegedly told CNN that he would not allow the virus to be injected into his body. Having looked at all the evidence, I believe that a DNA or RNA vaccine could alter my mind, my moods, my personality, and my humanity. It could change the way I deal with and respond to the people around me. I would rather be dead. How many people will the new COVID-19 vaccine kill or seriously injure? I have no idea, and nor does anyone else. Bill Gates has no idea, Dr. Fauci has no idea, Dr. Whitty has no idea, and UK Minister Matt Hancock, a keen pro-vaxxer, doesn't know. And none of them dare debate with me or presumably anyone else. If I'm wrong, why not debate with me, crush my arguments and make me look stupid? Could it possibly be that they're frightened to debate because they know I'm right? Incidentally, as an aside, I don't want to debate with anyone. I have no financial interest in these videos, and I certainly don't want to be a public figure. I'm an author, no more, no less, and I'd rather stay here in my comfy chair and look after my wife and the wildlife in our garden and write another book about Bilberry or Mrs. Caldecott's adventures. I'd much prefer it if someone else opposed to this vaccine took on the pro-vaxxers. It may sound crazy, but I'd rather be dead than have one of these absurd, unnecessary vaccines for COVID-19 that could alter my body, my mind, and my soul. In my opinion, that would be a fate worse than death. I will not accept the COVID-19 vaccine. I don't believe that those enthusiastically promoting the COVID-19 vaccine understand what is involved. Those who do understand and who agree to have themselves vaccinated should, in my view, be certified insane. But nevertheless, everyone should be allowed to choose for themselves whether or not to accept the vaccine. I don't believe in mandatory vaccination, and I don't believe in telling people not to have a vaccine. I just believe in giving people the facts so they can make up their own minds. If governments try to make this vaccine mandatory or essential in any way, then those of us who don't want to be vaccinated will have to fight in the courts and hope that the judges aren't on the payroll of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We will have to fight on the grounds that the vaccine cannot possibly be proved to be safe or effective, and that it is being used for a disease known to be no more deadly than the flu. I think this video is vitally important. Please send it to as many people as you can. YouTube is taking down my videos almost as fast as we can put them up these days. The other day they took down my video entitled "Coronavirus, Will Social Distancing Be Permanent?" which I recorded in the middle of May. So please, I beg you, share this video or ask people to read the transcript on my website. Print out the article and send a copy to your family doctor. If this video were not accurate, I could not and would not say any of this. There will be no complaints from drug companies or governments, but one way or another they will doubtless try to suppress what I've said. Oh, and one final thought for this video. The American government and Yale University are collaborating in a trial to determine the best words and phrases to use in order to persuade Americans to accept the COVID-19 vaccine. So watch out for more psychological warfare. Everyone questioning or refusing vaccination will be demonized. It would help enormously if you'd press the thumbs up button and if possible leave a small comment. We haven't monetized this channel and there are no advertisements and no sponsors, nor will there ever be. Clicking the thumbs up button simply helps to keep the video and the channel visible so that as many people as possible can find it. Videos in future will be released on Sundays and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Thank you for watching An Old Man in a Chair, and thank you for all your support and encouragement. Please copy and share the videos on Facebook, Twitter, BitChute and other platforms. Let's spread the truth. If you'd like to put on a translation, that would be great. If my videos disappear, then please go to vernoncoleman.com, where you can find transcripts, including transcripts of all the banned videos. There are many other articles there too. The website has no adverts and no sponsors. If you'd like to see more videos from me, then please subscribe to my channel because the videos aren't always easy to find. If you visit mainstream media, please put on messages asking readers to watch these videos to find the truth. Although it may seem like it at times, please remember you are not alone. More and more people are waking up all the time. I firmly believe that together we will win this fight. Distrust the government, avoid mass media, and fight the lies. Thank you for watching An Old Man in a Chair.